Roberta, and today I'm going to answer some common questions about a disease called cystic fibrosis. What is cystic fibrosis? Cystic fibrosis, or CF as it's sometimes called, is a disease caused by a genetic mutation. What is a mutation? A mutation is the change in whatever makes up your DNA. What exactly does cystic fibrosis affect? Cystic fibrosis affects the mucus your body creates. Instead of being distributed in a thin layer, it becomes thick, sticky, and hard to move. This affects cells in areas such as the lungs, liver, pancreas, and intestine, organs which are lined with mucus. The symptoms of cystic fibrosis are wheezing, coughing, occasionally with phlegm, shortness of breath, difficulty in bowel movements, frequent lung infections, and greasy or bulky stool. Before awareness of cystic fibrosis was raised, most patients only lived until the age of 4. Now, most patients are over 30 years old, and many still live past 50. Surprisingly, cystic fibrosis itself does not affect life much. Patients have a diet high in protein, but things such as education, physical activity, and social relationships are not heavily affected. As you all probably know, DNA is in the shape of a double helix. This means that, when unwound, it looks like a ladder. As I've mentioned before, a mutation is the cause of cystic fibrosis. A mutation is a change in whatever makes up DNA. In this case, part of the DNA is taken out, or deleted. In general, DNA, pictured on the left, codes for proteins pictured on the right. Let's take a look at that in a bit more detail. Proteins are chains of molecules called amino acids. Which amino acids are in a protein determine the protein's function. As you can see, the rungs of the DNA code for the different amino acids. If some of the rungs are removed, then so is the amino acid. This is what changes the protein. The idea of DNA can be compared to doing a project. For example, you're trying to make a birdhouse. You follow the directions, step by step, and voila, you have a birdhouse. But something looks wrong. It's missing a hole in the front. The directions have skipped a step, and because of this, your final product cannot serve its original purpose. The same thing happens in your DNA. Your DNA is like an instruction manual. If your DNA is missing, your cell cannot follow all of the steps needed in order to make the correct protein. This will mean that the protein will lose its original purpose. Now for a brief overview of meiosis. Meiosis is the splitting of reproductive cells. Shown here is a cell with a normal amount of DNA. The X's inside the cell represent the DNA. Then, the DNA reproduces. The blue X represent the new DNA. Then, the cell splits in two. Now, instead of having twice the normal amount of DNA, each of the new cells has the normal amount of DNA. Then comes the second split. Now, each of these cells has 1/2 of the normal amount of DNA. But why is this important? Well, the importance comes when the female egg merges with the male sperm. If each of these cells had the normal amount of DNA, then the offspring would have twice the normal amount of DNA, and that would cause very severe effects. Because 1/2 of the DNA comes from each parent, the child has traits from both the father and the mother. Cystic fibrosis is a recessive trait. This means that other traits, such as not having cystic fibrosis, are dominant over it or actually expressed more than having it. This means that in order to have cystic fibrosis, a child must get the gene from it from both of the parents. This can happen in several situations. First is, but both parents actually already have cystic fibrosis. Then the child will definitely have cystic fibrosis. This can also happen if one of the parents has cystic fibrosis and the other one is a carrier, or if both parents are carriers. A carrier is a person who is coded for having a disease but does not have it because the disease is recessive and another part of the gene is shown more than the part is coded for having the disease. Biotechnology provides a potential cure for many of the genetic diseases that people suffer from today. One way that scientists are trying to cure cystic fibrosis is through the use of a benign virus. A benign virus is a virus that is absolutely harmless. The scientists have changed the virus's DNA so that it is the same as what the human is supposed to have. They have also bred the viruses to withstand the immune system for a longer period of time. When the testing first began, the scientists found that the viruses, when released into the human body, were killed very, very soon by the immune system. Now, after the virus is released into the human body, it seeks out the cells that it's supposed to target and injects its DNA, what the cells were supposed to have in the first place, into the cells that need them. So far, there has been a success rate of over 90% in cultures. Because this is a new study, it has not been tried on animals and people. Nevertheless, this is a very viable method for treating cystic fibrosis and may lead to new cures for other diseases as well. I hope this presentation has led you to understand cystic fibrosis and genetics more thoroughly. Thank you and have a nice day.